This is the CV Akuta radio show. Leicester, UK. Keep listening.
Right, this is CV Akuta radio show, Leicester. We have in our midst now Prince Tonye Princewill. Prince Princewill is consulting for his gubernatorial ambition to contest next year as Rivers State governor. And here is Kingsley. T11. He lives in London here. Emmanuel BDK as well. More BDK. And Mr. Henry Jinaka is here. And yours truly, CV Akuta. Yeah. So, Kingsley, you have a question to ask Tonye?
Yes, I will have a question to ask Prince Tonye Princewill. Based on his interest to govern Rivers State in 2015. What I want to ask you, Tonye, what would your government put in place to guarantee accountability and reduction in corruption that seems to be the biggest problem within government and the public servants?
Okay, very good question, Kingsley. Thank you very much. First of all, you can call me Tonye. All these titles are just semantics. Tonye is fine.
TP.
Yes, or TP. Yes. Look, of course, I'm still consulting, so the concept of my government is still way ahead of us. But I think any government that genuinely wants to rid itself of corruption or the image of corruption must lead by example. I think that's the biggest mistake that we're making. You cannot have your finger inside the pot and then you'll be shouting that everybody else's finger should not be inside their own little pot. They will not listen. And I think everybody who talks about corruption needs to reflect on the fact that it's first by example. Many of us today, who we have become is as a result of our upbringing and the examples that were set to us by not just our father and mother, but elders and other people who lived around us. So we have to set examples, and not just in our actions, but also by our inactions. A typical example, for instance, is that if there is corruption in your government, people must see examples of people whose heads have rolled. In other words, you are looking at a state government where no commissioner has been dismissed as a result of corruption, or no senior official has been taken to court and charged because of corruption. If it hasn't happened, that means there is no corruption. And since people know that there is corruption, then it means that your inactions are speaking very loudly. So, my government, for instance, I'm sure within the first few weeks or months, heads will start to roll, because we will be setting an example very early on that corruption is not to be tolerated. I was even discussing with someone and we were talking about parading the person on an open-top van up and down a bar road. And they said that would be a violation of the person's fundamental human rights. So we're looking at that and seeing to see how we can walk around it. But the idea is to send a very strong signal that corruption in all forms will not be tolerated. Now, in addition to that, is the need to set up institutions. Because, yes, Tonye can be hard on corruption. But when Tonye goes, would it not be a return to the status quo or the norms? In our state, Rivers State, for instance, there is a perpetual injunction preventing the EFCC from investigating the affairs of the state. If I'm elected governor, I will see to it that that perpetual injunction is removed, so that all of our arms of government, including my own, are subject to scrutiny. Why should we be afraid of the scrutiny? He who lives in a glass house should not throw stones. If we are so sure that we are above corruption, then we should be prepared for the scrutiny that every other state faces. So that's an example of what I would do. Beyond the first and the second thing I've said, which is first of all your actions and inactions, and then secondly, of course, the injunction, we have to start thinking seriously about building institutions. EFCC is there. Yes, it's doing its job. ICPC is there. It's doing its job. But what's wrong with having state arms of these things that are effective, that are working hard? Yes, it's a federal responsibility, but as a state level, we too have a responsibility to check on our local government chairmen to see that they're doing the right thing, to make sure that everything is going according to plan, to make sure that our monies are actually being used the way they should be used. How many state governments are publishing the local government information of accounts? how their money is being utilized, how much they're getting, what they've done with their money. I will go as far as saying few, if any at all. And so that's something that needs to change. So the history is there for us. The fact that people have not done a lot about it is also obvious. But I believe very strongly that the more we get our people educated, the more we give people options in life, the more they will question, and the more transparency and accountability will become a norm. That is why it may surprise you to hear me say that corruption is not actually our main problem. I think it's good for sound bites for everybody to shout about corruption, but I don't believe that corruption is our main problem. I believe that job creation is our main problem. I believe if you create jobs, you give people options. If you give people options, they can make wise choices. If they can make wise choices, they will choose good leaders. If they have good leaders, they can build strong institutions. If they can build strong institutions, corruption will by its very nature fall by the wayside. I'll give you a typical example. Corruption exists in every society. The difference between Nigeria and many other societies is that there is no consequence for corruption in Nigeria. You can be corrupt, but there's no consequence for it. You can be corrupt, you go to court, the judiciary will postpone your case forever and ever, and eventually they will dismiss all charges from you. Now, how does that equate to the government? Is that not now the judiciary that is supposed to do its job that has not done its job? So building strong institutions is the priority. If you build strong institutions, you will now deal not just with corruption, but other ills in society. So I think people are missing the point when they keep focusing on corruption. It's not about corruption. Corruption exists in China, for instance. But look at what China has done, in spite of corruption. Now they're beginning to tackle corruption. After so many years, number 2 economy in the world, they're now beginning to tackle corruption. So the issue is not about corruption, it's building strong institutions. And once you do that, other things will naturally fall into place.
Yeah, my question is, how will you tackle insecurity in River State regarding kidnapping, armed robbers, and things like that?
Yeah.
What will you do regarding such norms or such problems?
Yeah, the mistake anybody can make is to tell you that one size fits all. It's not a single approach. It's not a single facet. It's a multifaceted approach. You have to deal with security, not just in terms of physical security, but also social security. And in terms of physical security, of course, you can do a lot there. You can actually create a ring of steel, that's what I call it, around River State to make sure that nothing comes in or out without your knowledge. That can go a long way to helping. There's no doubt that manpower, resources, funds will do a lot in ensuring physical security is in place. But I want you to look a little bit deeper than that. And why do I say that? I say that because many people who are subjecting themselves to crime are doing so because they feel that they have no choice. They look to their left, their right, they didn't go to school, they are not carrying anybody's briefcase, so the likelihood of them being a commissioner tomorrow is somewhere between 0 and none. They have no access to power.
So the mechanic is coming.
Their life is already a jail.
Yeah.
They don't see much future.
Yeah.
And you've not given them a choice. Many of the boys, if you can see them doing piracy, and piracy, I must say now, has increased. Kidnapping may have reduced, but piracy has increased. I was in the SSS office the other day. We are complaining that piracy, especially in the Calabari axis, has increased. And why is it the case? Because people feel that they don't have much of a choice. Even if you and I know that they do, they don't feel that they do. So we need to find ways of tackling that, which is why I said for me, the priority of any governor in River State should only be one. This idea of multi-point agenda, 5-point agenda, 7-point agenda, to me is not the way. 1-point agenda. And that 1 point is job creation. If you create jobs, you will find that people will find that this is a better way of life. Go to work, even if it is 20,000 naira you're going to earn. Go to work in the morning, come back at night. You have kept yourself engaged. You've kept yourself distracted from those evils of society. But also, don't forget that you can't, if you make job creation your priority, you have to deal with security. Because if you can't deal with security, you will not attract the investors that will come and create those jobs for you. So if you make job creation your priority, security will be your priority. And if you make job creation your priority, education will be your priority because you need skilled workers to work in some of these jobs. And you need to take skilled workers who have obtained skills in one profession. And in some cases convert them to another profession. Like me, for instance, my first degree is petroleum engineering. But I made my money from information technology because I was here in the UK and I was able to improve on my skills by doing additional training. Now, there are many Nigerians who would ordinarily be available to do another job, but because they have not gotten that crossover training that will give them the capacity to do that job, they can't do it. Now, if job creation is my priority, I will be creating those kind of training programs to ensure people do crossover courses that allow them move from course A to profession B. And so, creating job creation or creating jobs as a priority means that security will be addressed naturally, education will be addressed naturally, and so many other things, including infrastructure provision. All those things will be addressed because they're trying to create jobs. So, as much as people say security is an issue in the Niger Delta, I agree it is. But if we make job creation our priority, all those things will naturally fall into place.
Yeah, if you speak louder, please.
Yeah, I like the way you've been able to link, your key things in terms of job security and also security as well. But if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, number one is housing, which is accommodation. You need to have a roof over your head. Mm-hmm. But if we look at Nigeria, a roof over your head is not really important because you can sleep on the bridge. Yeah? But the key thing is food. Okay? So, people that don't have that education, they don't have the opportunity, whichever way, even if you take those jobs, if you're not educated, you probably might not be able to get these jobs. Those sort of people, what provisions have you got for them? In terms of, for example, healthcare, the healthcare system, what would you do to actually help such people? Because whichever way,
you are a member of the political house.
Yes.
And I suspect that you haven't looked at you haven't gone on it in the past few minutes. But if you have, I've addressed that question. But for the sake of the audience and the people listening, I'll say it again. I think it's very important. It's a very, very good question. You see, I said in my video message about 2 weeks ago, I said, look, in addition to health and education, transport and housing are the 4 pillars on which social service must stand. I agree with you 100% on what you're saying. I don't think the government has given enough attention to housing. I don't believe they're giving enough attention to transport. Now, I will. And the reason I will is because I believe that all these things are very, very, very important. Now, when we talk about those people who don't have the kind of quality education or provide them the kind of quality jobs that you and I are talking about, or rather, please, you miss a point. And that is that not everybody has a degree to get a job. And there's a lot of jobs, good jobs out there that people can acquire through basic skills. And it's that group of people that I'm also very interested in. When we talk about, skills acquisition, could be anything from basic sewing to welding to things where you don't have to go and have a university degree or some kind of certification, but just basic training. There are so many of those people that you can help. But you're right to say that, how do I help people who don't have a roof over their head? I am thinking housing here. I'm thinking about low-cost housing. I'm thinking about genuine low-cost housing. Because when you build a home, it's not necessarily one person you're building a home for. It's a whole family that can benefit from that. Think about transport. Here in the UK, you move from A to B using public transport. The public transport is so set up that it even encourages you to leave your car behind and enter it. That is not the case in Nigeria. Now, in River State, that's what we're going to create. So I have a very, I want to use the word bold, but it's not that bold because it's fairly achievable. System that will provide good quality public transport so that even the likes of you or me will be happy to enter it. One of the reasons why I am worried about transport is that it's a cost to the poor man on a daily basis. You as a rich man, you buy your car and you put fuel in it and you can afford to, but they don't have that option. They have to pay to get from A to B on a daily basis, and in the absence of that money, they won't. They sometimes have to walk. So providing good quality transport affects their pockets. Providing good quality health care affects their pockets. Providing good quality education affects their pockets. So one of the key ways of affecting the poor is by giving them these things, literally for free. But if not free, at least reduced and subsidized. In the UK, London transport is subsidized by the government. In any major city around the world, cost of public transport is subsidized by government. But in Nigeria, we expect that poor people must pay for everything. And so these are the kind of things that I am going to do if given the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the poor people. But it's not just about subsidizing them. It's also about giving them an opportunity for them to rise. And that is where skills acquisition and the job creation strategy I'm thinking about will affect them, because it will give them incomes as well in their lives.
So aside from the income, which is good, helping them and stuff like that, but then there's certain people that cannot work due to medical reasons, they cannot work, so that skills will not be applicable to them because they can't use it. How do you address that?
Well, look, I believe for me, society needs to take care of each other. I believe in a society where we're protecting ourselves. We're not going to set up a welfare system overnight. And always remember that it doesn't matter how much you promise, you have to be ready to pay for it. So, as much as we would like to pay for everybody, I think for now, I will want to restrict myself to providing opportunities for those that can take it. Now, if you are unable to work, if you're unable to, provide for yourself, then of course it would be good to have carers that can, and that can provide for you. There's definitely a system where we're saying that we should have care homes for the elderly, for the disabled, free medical service for disabled people. There are all those kind of schemes that are already in place today that can be improved upon. But anybody that tells you that we're going to solve all problems from day one is fooling you, and I don't want to put myself in that position or you in that position. But I do recognize that sometimes in a household, if one person gets work, it affects others. And I believe that by creating jobs for as many people as we will be doing, we'll be improving the lives of so many people. But I don't think that we'll be able to answer all problems in the first week, in the first year, in the first term. I don't think it's possible. And I don't want to create that impression. But I do believe that we'll be creating a society that will be a lot fairer by any stretch of the imagination. And I think as a result of the successes that we can achieve, people will expect more of us, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But I do recognize that we'll not be able to achieve everything from day one.
Thanks, Stevie. I think I just like the way you've been able to bring everything together. Sorry, I didn't listen to that threat, hence the reason why I was like, we didn't really integrate that, but you have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no,
sorry, which party do you want to hope to use? PDP. And then what happens if you don't make it through PDP? Will you be the campaign to another party?
I don't know. What happens if there's no Nigeria? There's so many things, we'll cross those bridges when we get there, but I think... We're talking about the realm of possibility. So there's a national conference on right now. We haven't talked about it, but the chances of Nigeria are slim. But some people say they are bright. So I think my chances are bright. Some people may think my chances are slim. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
But assuming, let's play devil's advocate. What happens if there's a little bit of
No, I'm not very good at playing devil's advocate. I'm preferably, I can play Christian advocate. I can prepare a Catholic advocate. But devil, no, but truthfully, I don't think PDP will make the mistake of giving the ticket for its party to a wrong candidate.
Yes.
And I believe there are not very many right candidates, and I think I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And so I think my chances are high. I don't want to say that if they don't give it to me, that's the wrong approach. I need to be positive.
All right. So on a scale of 1 to 10,
11.
I said 1 to 10.
Can I ask?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Tonye. So, based on former administrations in
Yes.
rural states, what would your government do to avoid the economic wastage in form of programs, projects, policies, as what we have seen and witnessed in other days and currently in Amiti's government, e.g. the gas turbine built which is not functional to its generating capacity, and the monorail being initiated by Amiti's government, and also avoiding duplication of projects that may not be completed within the lifetime of the administration.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think one of the problems we have is that we don't really have this project management expertise. And I think it's people maybe may not take it seriously, but it's very important. Before you start a project, you need to understand so many things. And I find that a lot of the projects that we've done have not had the kind of thought that we should have put into it. And that has been part of the problem. What am I saying? The absence of feasibility studies, which are a basic prerequisite to a proper project, is telling. Many projects are started without a proper feasibility study. And part of the problem is we Nigerians demanding government to perform in miracle time. There's this concept of first 100 days. Everybody wants to, what have you done in your first 100 days? So because of that, governors and governments are driving to achieve things. In Osun State, I had a candidate saying that the governor has not commissioned one project since he started. And that is because he's focused on maybe things that are not seen as physical. So if there's no infrastructure built, there's no road built, then the person is not performing. So there's a lot of pressure on the individuals to perform in record time. And feasibility studies are not carried out because of this need for performance. And as a result of that, you find that projects are incomplete or improperly put together. So I would want to remove that. I would also want to be able to say that if I come into office, I don't want to start from scratch. I want to take from Amechi's wherever he stops and finish what is started. There may be some areas where I'll be thinking, well, that project is not quite ideal. But I will be looking to find creative ways of taking advantage of a structure that has been put in place and maybe using it for something else as opposed to what it was originally intended for. If I find that that is a better way of utilizing the state's resources. But we can't continue this attitude of one person comes, throws away what the other person has done, and then he now starts his own set of projects from day one. And again, he's in a hurry to do something which another person will come and also throw away. So I want to try and see how we can consolidate and finish on what Amechi has started, and see how we can make the best use of what he has put in place. So that's the difference. Also, let's not forget that we have a due process commission, which, to the best of my knowledge, was functioning effectively. So effectively that even Amechi was frustrated by them. Because when Amechi tried to push them, they refused. They said, no, we will not move, we will move at our own pace. Now, I hope that gentleman is still there. Franklin Inlerum was his name. And he was very, very good. He came from the private sector. Now, he was there to ensure that projects were to standard and to cost. And I know enough about the project management profession to know that I can tell if projects are to standard and to cost. So, I think working with teams like that, strengthening them, giving them the opportunity to tell us when we can proceed and when we cannot, will help. But it's not just about one person relying on another person. It's a whole system of checks and balances. We need to be more transparent. Our budget needs to be published. Our budget needs to be public. And our budget needs to be available for scrutiny by, people like yourself who will look at it and say, you said you're going to do this. This cost of this project is wrong. It shouldn't cost this much. Because we know it can be done for less. That kind of transparency, that kind of scrutiny will give people the opportunity to give us a run for our money. So I think that is also an area. There was one particular question you asked at the end. If you could just repeat the question at the end, which I think is also very important. He talked about avoiding wastage. He talked about ensuring that there's completion.
Is that the one, and also avoiding the duplication of projects?
Thank you.
That may
so now the duplication.
Not be completed.
Yes, now the duplication is very, very important. Why is it important? It's important because sometimes I've seen it before. It's not a story. One ministry doesn't know what another ministry is doing. I've seen it. So you can be building a road, and as you're building this road, you suddenly find that directly in the path of that road. No,
So we have Emeka and Eke now in the midst now.
Welcome. Emeka is here.
Emeka, welcome.
Emeka has just joined us. We're in the middle of the interview, but Emeka has just joined us. So I'm just going to round up by saying that sometimes you find one ministry doesn't know what another ministry is doing, or one local government is doing something which is a duplication of a state government's efforts. And the miscommunication is frightening. Somebody is building a fiber optic cable network, and another ministry comes and just drills through it in building a road. Somebody is laying pipes for water, pipe-borne water, and another person just comes and does and destroys what is there. So the same government, different ministries, miscommunication. So the duplication of effort requires it's an enormous effort, but it almost has to be, when we talk about a digital age, there are ways that these things can be done where project A cannot go forward without certain approvals, which automatically click in, and somebody will say, hang on, but this will conflict with that. So how does this work? And we have systems that just run from people's bedrooms. I don't want to name some people, but there's some governments that are run from bedrooms. They don't go to an office to run them. And so you shouldn't be surprised when you see these kind of scenarios occurring in that. So it's very important, but of course, they call me already digital politician. I understand the need for these things to be, systemized, not just run from individual, where you give approvals in a meeting and nobody understands what promises and commitments have been made. And so we need to run government in a much more organized, much more deliberate fashion. And it's not grammar. The difference between the politicians who will take Nigeria forward and the ones that are currently doing what they're doing is that the ones that will take Nigeria forward are exposed, but they're also determined. They're determined. We need intellectual agboros in Nigeria. We don't need people who are intellectual, but they're afraid. If you're afraid, you can't drive this thing through. But you can't drive it through with ignorance either. You need to be sharp enough to understand that it has to be done differently. But you need to be committed enough to drive it through. And actually sit down. It's not driving through, it's not by force. You need to convince people. You say to people, guys, we need to do this for these reasons. And this is the benefit. It's not, it must be this, it must be that. No. You have to convince people. And to convince people requires temperament. Because people will look you in the face and say, oh God, that one not going to work. And when they say, oh God, you have to now think, in spite of the power bestowed on you, you don't apply it. Like, why is he talking to me like that? Who does he think he is? Out with him. Do you understand? I told him, I said your voice and your pronouncements can kill people. You have to understand that. So you have to use it sparingly. That's what Jonathan is doing. That people look at him and say he's weak. Jonathan's pronouncements can eliminate people, can eliminate their livelihoods. So you see the man sometimes is a little careful at how he applies himself. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. So, yes, I'm not saying that he's always wise. Yes, sometimes he has displayed a bit of that weakness, but it's not always the case. So I just think that we must be measured, but that duplication of effort thing is all about communication, it's all about strategy, it's all about process, which in Nigeria is lacking.
Okay. Right. TP.
Yes, sir.
I listened to your TV interview and I watched a YouTube interview. You mentioned about the multi-ethnic nature of River State.
Yes.
How do you hope to run an all-inclusive government if elected?
Well, when you're looking at all-inclusive now, there are two types of inclusivity. There's intra and there's extra. So the inclusivity within the state and then inclusivity outside of the state. Port Harcourt was always a place where everybody could go and relax. People who come in from everywhere. Port Harcourt has always been a friendly place. it still remains a friendly place. But I discovered it even here in the UK. In the midst of poverty, in the midst of lack, people become very aggressive. When the UK economy drops, immigration becomes a higher issue than it would otherwise have been. When there's prosperity, in the boom years, people are less myopic. They're less, what's the word I'm looking for now? Less inclined to these issues. Thank you, that's the word. That xenophobia becomes a major factor. But as there's prosperity, as there's happiness, Port Harcourt was that, still is. But in the midst of lack, unfortunately, people start to wonder they start to know where you come from. I didn't know about this Calabari, Ikwere. Growing up, I didn't know it. Everybody was my brother. I grew up with one of these. I mixed with everybody. I didn't even know those things. But then again, I was born in England, lived in the north. So, of course, that's not my disposition. But I find that some people come to me and say, "You're Calabari governor." I'm like, guys, calm down. Okay, yes, I'm Calabari. But I want to be known not for where I come from, but where am I taking us to? That's what I want to be. That's what legacy I want to leave behind. So yes, I'm a Calabari, but so that means if it's not me, any Calabari man will do. Surely it can't be that. It has to be something. Our substance must matter. Our content must count for something. So that is, to me, what is more important. But in looking at Port Harcourt, I ask myself something. I say, look, if we're truly honest with ourselves, it has everything. We have the oil, we have the gas, we have the human resource, we have 2 seaports, we have 2 airports, we have land. Guys, River State is blessed. We can do agriculture with ease. We can do information technology with ease. We can do anything with ease. Surely, all it takes is somebody who can just put these things together. Somebody who can invite the business community in and talk their language, so that when he's talking to them, they say, okay, this is a guy we can do business with. Somebody who can talk to the youths and say, guys, look, I'm one of you. We can't continue like this. We need to slow down. He can relate to the youth in the creeks. He can relate to the youth in the streets. He can relate to the youth in the universities. He can relate to the youth in jobs. He can relate to the youth who are thinking to themselves, who do I look up to? Because for me, when I went back to Nigeria, there was nobody to look up to. Everybody who had something got it by means that were less than what we were used to in this system, where you have to work for your money. So there was nobody to look up to. There was no mentor. There was nobody to say, I want to be like that guy when I grow up. Who? Think about the length and breadth of River State. Who do you think I want to be like him when I grow up? There's nobody. There is nobody. I don't even need to ask. I know you're searching your mind. There's nobody. So, it's unfortunate, but now, slowly, I find myself, I walk, I interact with them, I say, Tonye, yeah, I belong to be like you when we grow up. But I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what it is I've inspired in these young men, but whatever it is, I need to build more people like that. And I know there are more people like me who are quiet because they're just fed up. They just don't think anything can happen. They don't think change is possible. They just think it's not going to happen. And they look at Tonye, nice guy, but you can't make it. This system, they will crush it. So, this guy is speaking grammar. Poor chap. So I want to show those people. That, yeah, Tonye will succeed. You can succeed. My success is not about me. Because, if it's in the UK, I can survive. If it's in Nigeria, I can survive. It's not about me. It's not about my survival. My survival is already assured. What this is about all those young men. Some people call me, they're from other states. They say, I wish you were from our states. It's about inspiring all those young men and women to say, you know what? Tonye can come from London, come into this system, mix it with the worst of the worst. Because River State had the worst of the worst. They were killing us. They were literally, in River State in 2007, they were eliminating political opposition. It was that simple. So when I came into an atmosphere where they were killing people. And nothing happened to me. So, I need to inspire those people. I need to tell those people that it's possible. And that's why we're going to succeed, because I'm not doing this thing for me. I'm doing this thing for those thousands and thousands of young men and women who are just tired. They're just fed up, and they just can't understand that, what kind of nonsense is this? Everybody's quiet. So me, I'm not quiet. And so the success will come. It's not going to be easy. No doubt about it. But we have to succeed. We have to succeed. It's for our generation. You know? Even my kids, they're here. I was telling one of my sons the other day, I said, I'm going, you guys have to come and at some point, this is your wahala. I said, no, Daddy, that's not the deal we had. The deal we had is that you are going to straighten it out, and we will come and finish it up. That's the deal we had. So they know that, because I haven't seen my wife and my kids for 4.5 months. They know that the reason why all this wahala is on is because I have committed to them that I'm going to go and change the system. So anything short of that is failure. And I can assure you I have no intention of failing my children. So I'm going into this thing with commitment and drive. And I'm going into it also with very clean hands. Because my brother, if you soil your hands in this system, they will take you out. Even God himself will take you out. Because you say, no. So I've paid my dues. I've suffered. I've seen money do like this. I've just been watching. I could easily have claimed it. I could have done all sorts of things. I kept myself the way I kept myself because of where I knew I was going. So there's nothing that is going to distract me or discourage me from achieving that objective. But is it going to be easy? No.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned you've been able to identify certain problems in the country as a whole. One of them, as you said, is lack of coordination in carrying out projects.
Absolutely.
Obviously, if you have a working planning division within the state ministry, I'm sure they can solve all these problems. You've also mentioned about tension. Okay, let's just call it tension for now in Rivers State, which is quite a serious thing, because this tension, it kind of starts very small, then it snowballs into something big, and before you know, everybody's wondering, where did it all start? Where's it going to end? Okay, but where I'm particularly interested in is, how do you intend to create employment? Is it going to be like past government, where you have to create a position and fill your cronies in? What are you going to do for the youth who are graduating? We have so many unemployed youth. It seems like education is no longer a viable means to livelihood in Nigeria. It's sad as it is, but that's what some people think. How are you going to create it? We know that Rivers State has huge potential. Just like other states who claim they have huge potential. But Rivers State potential, you can see it. They are there by the water. You have, as you've mentioned, you have airports, you have seaports. You are bordered by how many states? About 4 states. Okay? And the potential are there for everybody to see. What do you intend to do with regards to employment? I know that I don't expect every government to create employment, but you have to create the atmosphere to bring in private investors who would obviously provide the employment. What do you intend to do? If you can be as practical as possible.
Yeah, I touched on it slightly earlier when I said that you need to be able to speak to the investors, because you haven't seen my video, but if you had, it's a 3-minute video, very short. It just talks about the basic ideals that I think are important.
Okay, I'll try it.
And if you watch it, it says there that the largest employer of labor should be small to medium scale enterprise, not government. And I say that specifically because in Nigeria, you just hit the nail on the head. Governments believe that the way to create employment is to create a parastatal of some sort that employs people. And then you just throw your friends' children and your friends into it, and you say you've employed people. Now, I won't lie to you, there will be some of that, maybe not cronies, maybe not children or friends, but government will play its own role in assisting with employment. For instance, disabled people, we're doing a lot of, where we know that employers will not ordinarily take them on, we will create opportunities for such people. Definitely. But the majority of employment will not come from government. The majority of employment will come from small to medium scale enterprise. And the only way you can get them into Rivers State is proactively. It's not going to happen by accident. You need to speak to them. You need to encourage them to come in. Now, I, on my own, have created jobs for my own companies. I even have people working in the North Sea from my own companies. So they're actually earning dollars, having come from Nigeria, the Nigerian system. So I know how to take people from no hope to happiness. I know what it involves. Because I have my own companies that are employing people, I understand the affairs and the issues that the average businessman feels. For instance, most people will not know that, but one of the basic challenges of the average businessman in Rivers State is multiple taxation. So, if I'm a business and I come into Rivers State and I want to set up, I may have 5, 6, 7 different people knocking on my door to pay one tax or the other. And that's so inconvenient for small to medium scale enterprise. You don't even know what your tax costs are going to be. You don't know what your tax liability is. You literally are walking into an unknown. And if you're harassed enough, you will leave. Or if you hear enough about how people are harassed, you won't come. So it will be the job of government to create an environment where business actually feel that they need to come. Remove the red tape, which everybody is doing, but we are not, and make it much more simple for businesses to grow, to start up and grow in Rivers State. There's so many opportunities that businesses would like to engage in, but they're not given the opportunity because government wants to control everything. Waste management is a very typical area. Waste management is a patronage area. People use it to give patronage to their friends. But if it is allowed to be run private sector-wise, you can create tens of thousands of jobs just from waste management. Not only create jobs, but actually create revenue from it as well. Because people pay for sanitation right now, but no sanitation is carried. The average individual actually pays for sanitation. You'll be surprised that there's sanitation levy here, sanitation levy there. You may not know as big men, but the poor guys in their homes, they feel that they have to pay sanitation levies. Now, all that money is going into private pockets. It's not a system. It's literally like a charge. The local government chairman says, come and pay sanitation levy. They pay. But it doesn't go into a pool, which basically is supposed to help with the recycling. And you can also create power from waste. There's so many things you can do with waste. There's an American company that came and said, give me your waste, and we'll create revenue. So there are lots of these opportunities. Now, put that to one side. Just think about what would happen if power was steadier and more consistent. Rivers State now easily is the largest generator of power, aside from the federal government in Nigeria. But that power that is generating is not transmitted and distributed to homes the way it should be. Now, the difference between how it is and how it should be is simple inefficiency of government. I can go into detail of it, but let me just put it simply. That if you had an efficient government in Rivers State, power would be a lot more steady. Now, if power was a lot more steady, you'll be able to invite and attract industry a lot easier. If you had industry in Rivers State, it has 2 ports, it has 2 airports, it has 2 seaports, it has 2 airports. It is, yes, riddled with insecurity issues, but if that is checked, you can imagine the amount of people that would come. You can service the Midwest, you can service the East, you can service the whole of West Africa from Nigeria, from Rivers State. In fact, there's a free zone there, on-air free zone, where you have huge companies that are there, that are based there. So there's a lot that can come out of Rivers State. But the largest investors in Rivers State are people that talk to me. And one of them said to me, Tonye, we can't deal with these guys. They don't speak our language. So I know for a fact that if you put the right person there, businesses would come. Businesses would flock there. But it's the right person that they're waiting for. And you know, the businesses cannot impose that person on the people. They'll expect the people to, well, whoever you come up with, well, we'll deal with whoever you come up with. If you come up with Ahmadinejad from Iran, that's, what are we going to do? We're not going to overthrow him. We'll work with whatever you come up with. If you come up with somebody that we can talk to, and we can work with, then we'll come and do business with you. And me, I have the ability to talk to the lower of the lows, the killers, the militants, all of them. And I have the ability to talk to the presidents and the heads of business communities.
Sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yes, please.
What are you saying about the power supply? Are you saying that you generate enough? There's no need to generate more. But rather, you're talking about a redistribution of power that's already being generated. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes and no. Why do I say yes? Yes, because we are generating a lot that is not being utilized. It's a bit like Nigeria now. Some people will say, well, we're a poor country. Others will say, hang on, the money we have, are we using it well? I believe that the power we have, we're not using that power well. If that power we had was being utilized properly, we would have much more steady power. But can we generate?
How is it not being utilized?
Okay, think about it just purely from the sake of wastage. You generate power. That power, the offtake of that power is not efficient. The transmission lines, they are supposed to take whatever you're generating to its destination and not doing so efficiently. Two reasons. One is within the power plants themselves, there are losses. The transmission lines themselves, there are losses. Losses simply due to inefficient systems plus vandalization of the transmission lines. That's why I say I can go into detail. But just look at it as being inefficient. So if you know anything about systems, end to end, there are losses. So there's loss at... Sorry?
15% you have to make.
No, I'm not talking about losses as in natural losses. I'm talking about avoidable losses. If it was avoidable losses, nobody would be complaining. I'm talking about avoidable losses. For instance, a typical avoidable loss is that the transmission line should have anti-theft wiring. They don't. If you have put anti-theft wiring on it, a lot of the vandalization that is going on now would have been avoided. In fact, all of the vandalization that was going on now would have been avoided. And that in itself is causing enough. I don't have the statistics, but if you look at the statistics, you know that it's disgraceful. So that's just transmission lines. Then let's go down to distribution. So you've generated, you've transmitted, you now get to the distribution end. The problems there are unbelievable. Okay? So just efficient use of existing power would make a huge difference. Alright, so that's just existing power. Then let's talk about additional capacity. Of course, it goes without saying that additional capacity will also improve the situation. So it's a bit of both. It's like in the UK, they say let's not contribute to the EU. Let's not increase our contribution to the EU until the EU becomes more efficient in the use of the one we're giving them. So before we talk about increasing the power generation capacity, let's talk about efficient use of existing power. That's what I'm saying. So we can generate more, we should generate more, but even with what we have currently, we should be doing a much better job of it.
How do you hope to generate more?
Well, you have two sources. Minimum of two sources. I can go into even more. But let's say existing plants, power plants, you can improve the capacity of existing plants.
Gas powered or
gas powered as well. That's why I don't want to expand. We can talk about other forms of power generation. Energy. But I think that when we're doing that, that should be a national agenda. I think in our area, I'm talking rivers now, we have huge gas supply, we're still flaring gas. So I would like to see efficient use of gas. And so I wouldn't be thinking about other forms of power generation like wind, for instance, and solar as my primary source. They may be secondary, but let's remember that they cost more. They're a lot better in terms of environmentally. Environmentally, they're friendlier, but they're much more expensive. So if I'm a River State government, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I have a source of power, let me use it. So that's what I'll be talking about. But then the second source, of course, is aside from the state government generating power, you have federal responsibility as well. And the federal government is generating power. So as the federal government generating power, River State should get some of that power that is being generated.
Right. Yeah. And can you have another question?
You haven't asked him whether he has finished now.
Because
I want people to ask.
We're running short of time here now because
Okay, you have to run back.
I need to run back now. Gentlemen, yeah, due to time now, we have to cut down this interview now from Tonye. So do you have anything to say, Lars? Do you have anything to say, Tonye, before we now cut?
Well, look, one of the reasons I'm doing this consultation is I want to just speak generally to people. One is, I have ideas. I've been thinking about this thing for a long time. when people say to me, how long have you been? I think, look, in 2007 I contested for governor, and since then I've been quiet. And that's almost 8 years. And since then I've been thinking, what went wrong in 2007? What can go right? What are the issues that have grown since then? And I need to be dealt with. I'm much more experienced now than I was then. And so this consultation is important, but people don't know that I've actually done a consultation. I have taken a survey of all the communities in River State. I've gone around. People have talked to people, I've gathered data. I've taken responses, not just from elites, but the people on the ground. What are their issues? The issue in Obiakpo local government area is different from the issue in Asariton local government area. This idea that all of us want the same things is not true. We may want the same things, but in different orders of priority. I find that the issues our local government differ in terms of priorities. I also think that if you look at something from the perspective of the woman who is not educated, her views and the issues that affect her are significantly different from the guy who has been to university and traveled the world. So people's expectations are different, people's hopes are different, people's needs are different. And even River State government has not conducted a survey like this. I actually took my survey results and gave them to River State government in appealing to Amechi for him to have a more listening ear to what the people are saying. I know how much it cost me. I brought in World Bank consultants who did it alongside my people. And I used the opportunity to build capacity amongst my own team. And since then, they've been doing surveys and getting and sampling opinions. So I've conducted this survey, but what I'm doing is listening to people, talking to them, getting a sense of what are the issues to them. Just this discussion has already revealed certain people's priorities, preferences, leanings. And that is part of the discussion I've been doing for the past 7 years. You know? But I'm formalizing it now. I'm saying, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm intending to do. And I'm hoping that by doing this formally, people are now saying, well, there's a guy there that I think we should look at. And somebody can send my video to another person and say, oh, what do you think about this guy? You know, do some scrutiny, do your own research, find out what you think, what are the issues. And if I get the feedback from people, I will be better prepared. Not just before an election, but post-election. Assuming we achieve victory, this will be somebody who will be more informed than his peers about the issues, the challenges, and some of the solutions. Because in people asking questions, some people will also give answers that will help. All right. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. www.TonyePrincewill.com. That's my website.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Tonye, thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen.